Look, after being elected to represent the people of Lakeland for the last decade, there is nothing I hate more than watching Canadian tax dollars end up in the hands of big government just for them to hand it off to their insider buddies and liberal cronies to line their own pockets while Canadians go hungry and can't find jobs. So that's why I've been concerned by everything that Canadians have learned since the election. All the vast conflicts of interest that Mark Carney has kept hidden from you. Because don't forget, right before he became Prime Minister, Mark Carney was a globalist banker, a corporate CEO, and in his own words, a self-identified European. And I mean, although he's Prime Minister now and is supposed to be all about protecting the public interest and doing right by Canadians, he sure still acts a lot like his past self and is sure focused on benefiting his old corporate buddies, isn't he? Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this yourself, but if you remember during the election, he told Canadians, quote, "I own nothing but cash and personal real estate." Well, that was a lie. Because the truth is, Mark Carney owns shares in over 574 companies that are still making him money today. And remember, he also claimed, quote, "I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management," when the truth was and is that he holds stock options, deferred shares, and hundreds of corporate investments directly tied to Brookfield, which is why conservatives want to make sure he's not using the power of the government to personally benefit himself and his corporate insider buddies. The truth is, he is still connected to all of them, and his cronies are still working for Brookfield. I'll bet you he still thinks about them a lot too. But don't just take my word for it. He's shown that himself. While Mark Carney advised Trudeau, he sat on the Liberal Party board and he pushed heat pumps on Canadians, a product which, oh, surprise, surprise, Brookfield has a heavy stake in through a heat pump company that stood to gain from government subsidies. Now, look, conservatives are not against the use of heat pumps by Canadians in every corner of the country. In fact, at the time, I myself spoke out about all the ways the Liberal program was actually ineffective in making heat pumps affordable options for struggling Canadians. But we conservatives sure are against using government policy, government programs, and your tax dollars to benefit elite politically connected insiders and politicians themselves. And remember how hard Carney pushed for the Liberal ban on gas-powered vehicles when he was advising Trudeau? Well, no surprise. Again, turns out Brookfield is heavily invested at every single level of EV supply chains, globally too. But maybe worst of all, because this is also after he took office, he wrote Bill C-5 originally to let him dodge the Conflict of Interest Act and the Criminal Code. I bet you he sure hoped that nobody would spot that, but conservatives did. And we successfully passed a motion in committee to make those critical laws apply to Carney and to his buddies through that process, even though the Liberals voted against our amendment. Now, if you're alarmed by all these obvious conflicts of interest, don't worry, because conservatives are working hard to get answers. Just recently, conservatives passed an amendment in Parliament to order the CEO of Brookfield and Mark Carney's current chief of staff to the Ethics Committee, which is a rare committee that's chaired by an opposition member, to answer questions about exactly how deep Carney's conflicts of interest go. Because you will also remember the absolute ridiculousness when Mark Carney pushed away women reporters asking questions about this, and remember that he actually looked Canadians straight in the face and claimed he didn't know what was in the blind trust and everything is now in the blind trust. But that can't possibly be true because he sure knew what went into that blind trust, didn't he? Anyway, Canadians deserve transparency and accountability, not backroom deals, not insider politics, and not another Liberal Prime Minister tied to hundreds of companies. Only conservatives will clean up Ottawa, stop insider corruption, kick out the cronies, and restore ethics in government. Because Canadians deserve nothing less. And you know what? Enough is enough already.